Okay, well, you've answered loads of really interesting questions, but I suspect we're going to get tons of really good questions from the chat room. Pete, have we got any great questions? No pressure.
Okay, Moments of Film asks, where are you finding information about how to run and market a production company and make it work?
I guess now it's from self-learning. So I've been doing this now for 7 years, so I've learned a hell of a lot about what works and what doesn't. One of the key learning points is talking to people in the industry. So we go out for a lot of coffees in London and we network like hell, and Godiva opened all those doors. So we have some great mentors who are right up there in the top of studios who are in charge of the acquisitions, who will meet us and give us advice, which is very helpful.
Any other questions?
Yep, Rob Mills asks, do you have any online distribution?
Is that Rob Mills from Dynamo Player?
I've no idea.
I think it might well be.
No, not yet, but that will all be part of the Born of War plan, yes.
Okay, and someone whose name I can't read asks, do you feel pretty pressured making a film with so much financial backing?
No, I didn't at that time. Everyone used to ask me that on set, do you feel under a lot of pressure? And I didn't, because the people really believed in me and they wanted me to do my thing. I feel under more pressure now because I've gone through this massive learning curve and I've said, right, I know what works. Back me, let's go for it, we're going to be really successful. So now I feel the pressure, definitely.
Any more, Pete?
Yeah, somebody's asking, Realm Pictures is asking, I'd really like to get an idea of the ROI on Godiva.
Return on investment.
It's very, very low. I'll be very honest. It's like, I don't know percentages wise.
Right.
We had a bit of one of those nasty filmmaker experiences with our UK distributor, who I won't name and shame, but who the DVD did really well, but we haven't seen a penny of that yet. Right. So we're currently in long, legal, lovely battles on that one.
Right. It is an unfortunate situation, isn't it, that many of us face. And I don't know whether you know, over the last couple of weeks I've been blogging about this thing called Dynamo Player, which the guy in the chat room, Rob, was asking you. They've created a way that you can put your film online and people can watch the first 10 minutes or a trailer and then they have to pay to watch the rest.
Wicked.
But you, the filmmaker, are in control of that. So for me it's a very important step. It's just part of the big plan, but it just makes it that bit more difficult for people to totally rip you off or control your work to the point where you never get a penny back.
Exactly, and I think everything like that is fantastic, and it's definitely the way forward. And I've heard of some companies in New York that are doing that, and that are doing very well with it because they have a huge catalogue of films, and it's working brilliantly for them. And that would be within our plan. We're also planning, as part of our main company plan, to start our own sales arm so that we are in charge of selling our products as much as possible.
So you are in fact taking over the world?
Yes. Trying to, yeah.
Okay, so any final questions, Pete, or should we...
Yeah, one last one from 555 Films. Have you lined up an idea for your third movie yet?
Yes, yeah. I have a couple of ideas. One of which would be, I would love to do James Bond when James Bond was invented, but we wouldn't be able to do it as James Bond, but the proper golden era of all that beautiful travel and a proper period piece. Or something else that interests me is the female pilots that flew the Spitfires in World War II that not many people know about, and it's a very inspiring story. But it's also worth me saying, we are setting up something for young filmmakers, which is called the Mini Blockbuster, and we are actively seeking to make 3 films with filmmakers who have never made a film before. We want to make their first feature, which we will fund for a low budget, because I would really like to spread the low budget first time filmmaker love in a way, and create a stable of that talent and get the business going again, really. So anybody that does have some fantastic ideas that wants to submit them, we'd really welcome that.
And what's your URL to find that?
If you just go jewsonfilmproductions.com, all our contact details are on there. Yep.
Okay, so my final 2 questions, which I always ask everyone, what do you think the biggest mistakes you've made so far have been?
I don't really see it as like huge mistakes. I see there are things which I've tweaked my learning. I would never look back at my experience and say that was a massive mistake, because everything I've done has brought me to this point today, which I'm really happy to be in, and I have these huge opportunities and I'm living my dream, really. It's very hard. I mean, you spend 3 years getting to the point where you actually get to make a film, and then that takes 6 weeks, and then it's all over and you're back at square one again. But I would say awareness of the back end is the biggest thing I've learnt, and was the biggest mistake I probably made. And it's no sort of secret, as I said to you before, I'm very open about where I've learnt things and how it's brought us to where we are today.
Okay. And my final question, again I ask everyone, I'm going to rephrase this because of course you are so very young and so very successful at such a young age. What advice would you offer a very young filmmaker who's probably struggling to kind of connect A to B to C? They know very much that they want to be in film, but just can't quite make those leaps. What advice would you offer that filmmaker?
I would say make sure you're fully exposed to every part of the industry, because everybody thinks they want to be a film director, but there are so many different roles within making a film. And if you want to be a film director, I'd say go out there and start making films, buy a cheap camera and just go for it, because that's the best way to make your name, and get in touch with people like me and like you and network. But if you're not really sure that that's definitely for you, try and expose yourself to every different department, because there are so many fantastic, interesting, inspiring things you can do that still connect with the creativity of being a director, but without having to be a megalomaniac, and they're still quite satisfying. And I think it's quite hard, isn't it, to have access to seeing all of that. And
it's an experience thing, isn't it? There's the stuff you don't know, but there's always the stuff you don't know, and that's what gets you. And the only way you can figure that out is either by being with somebody who can share that knowledge with you, and that's really hard to get, because you don't get it. There's that great line in Good Will Hunting about, you can tell me what the Sistine Chapel looks like, but you can't tell me what it smells like, because you've never been there.
Exactly.
So, it's a bit like that. So sometimes, I feel filmmakers that you've got to make your own mistakes, because until you've made those mistakes, you don't know that you don't know it. Just do it, as in a contained way if you can.
Exactly, reduce the risks and do it in a contained way. I didn't necessarily take that path,
Certainly
but
not.
I wouldn't give the advice to do what I did to everyone in the world. But if you can do it in a contained, as risk-free as possible. But I think doing is what's important. There's a lot of people that talk about it in this industry, and I think doing sets you immediately apart from everybody else. And just keep going for it. Don't give up. Don't accept failure. I mean, that's what I've had to learn.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for coming to share with us. It's been fantastic.